June 6, 1944, 4:47 p.m. Omaha Beach, Normandy. Major Richard Winters observes through binoculars, his fingers still trembling with adrenaline. Around him, 156 American Sherman tanks are positioned on the dunes, ready to advance inland. Their engines roar, their tracks sink into the blood-stained sand. What he doesn't know, what the Allied command doesn't know, is that in the next 72 hours, 73 of these tanks will be destroyed without the Germans firing a single anti-tank projectile. There will be no Panzerfaust explosions. There will be no duels with the feared Tigers. Only a small cylindrical object, the size of a cigarette, that will become the deadliest weapon of the Atlantic Wall. But that is getting ahead of our story. Statistics paint a portrait of the terror that awaited in the Bocages. Between June 6th and June 24th, 1944, Allied forces would lose 341 Sherman tanks in the Normandy campaign. Each carried 5 crew members. The survival rate when a Sherman was hit, 18%. Only 1 in 5 men escaped alive. The German response should have been conventional. 75mm Pak 40 anti-tank guns, disposable Panzerfausts, and the dreaded Tiger tanks with their 88mm guns. But in the Bocages of Normandy, those narrow roads flanked by 10-foot earth embankments covered in dense vegetation, the Germans developed something different. Something that would turn every corner into a death trap. A device so simple it seemed harmless. So effective it would change armored combat doctrine. So devastating that the Allied High Command would order its suppression from all combat reports. For 2 years, American soldiers would die without knowing what was actually killing them. Today, this device is known as the Regal Mine 43. But in Normandy, soldiers called it the death cigarette. And the story of how 73 Sherman tanks were destroyed by it begins not on a French beach, but in a secret laboratory in Kummersdorf, Germany, 18 months before D-Day. March 1943. Kummersdorf Proving Ground, 35 kilometers south of Berlin. Captain Ernst Schulze observes the results of the latest test. Once again, a total failure. The problem haunting German engineers was simple in theory, impossible in practice. How to destroy a tank without an anti-tank gun. The statistics were brutal. A Pak 40 gun required a 5-man crew, weighed 1,425 kilograms, cost 12,000 Reichsmarks, and had a hit rate of 23% against moving targets. Worse still, each Pak 40 had a life expectancy of 48 hours in active combat before being destroyed or captured. The math was simple and desperate. Germany was losing anti-tank guns faster than it could produce them, and the Allies were producing Shermans faster than the Wehrmacht could destroy them. Something had to change. The solution needed to be cheap, simple to produce, effective against armor, and, crucially, not require specialized crews. Schulze was not a senior engineer. He didn't have a PhD in ballistics. He lacked official authority to redesign German weaponry. What he had was an uncomfortable observation no one else seemed to make. Why? He asked General Guderian during an inspection. Are we trying to pierce the frontal armor when we can simply break the tracks? Guderian's response was predictable. Conventional anti-tank mines already exist. Teller mines are effective. The problem isn't the concept, it's the implementation. Schulze politely disagreed. Teller mines have 3 fatal problems. Problem 1. They're circular, 32 centimeters in diameter. Easy to detect, easy to bypass. Problem 2. They require pressure of 91 to 136 kilograms to detonate, designed to explode under the tank's center of mass. But modern tanks distribute weight through the side tracks. Teller mines frequently fail to detonate. Problem 3. They are buried, visible as small circles of turned earth. Allied engineering teams detect them with probes and disarm them easily. Schulze's solution was radical in its simplicity. Forget buried circular mines. Create something elongated, narrow, that can be camouflaged in the roadside vegetation. Something that detonates not by the tank's vertical pressure, but by the track's horizontal contact. Something impossible to see until it's too late. He presented prototypes in April 1943. The Oberkommando der Wehrmacht's response was immediate and definitive: denied. Anti-tank mines must conform to established specifications. Individual modifications violate standardized weaponry protocols. No further consideration will be given to this matter. Schulze appealed. Denied again. He revised the design, added effectiveness calculations, impact probabilities, and cost-benefit analysis. Third denial. A red memo across the document. Junior officer exceeded his authority. File and do not process further requests of this nature. What Ernst Schulze didn't know was that his rejected design had reached the desk of someone who understood exactly what it meant. May 1943. Berlin, Ministry of Armament. Albert Speer, Hitler's armament minister, reviews production reports. The situation is desperate. Monthly production of Pak 40 guns, 340 units. Monthly loss at the front, 420 units. Math was simple. Germany was running out of anti-tank weapons. Speer finds Schulze's rejected proposal in a pile of discarded documents. He reads it 3 times, then calls an emergency meeting. Present, General Guderian, representatives from Krupp, engineers from Rheinmetall, and Captain Schulze, summoned directly from his post without explanation. Speer wastes no time on formalities. Captain Schulze, can your device be mass-produced? Yes, sir. Basic materials: stamped steel, Amitol explosive, pressure fuse. Cost per unit? 47 Reichsmarks, sir. Compared to 12,000 for a Pak 40. Silence in the room. Then Guderian speaks. And the effectiveness? Schulze opens his folder. General, a moving Sherman has an 87% chance of triggering a buried teller mine before passing over it. But it has a 3% chance of detecting my camouflage mine on the side until the track makes contact. If correctly placed on the edges of bocage roads where tanks are forced to pass, the hit rate rises to 67%. Guderian leans in. 67%? Yes, sir. Because the tank commander is focused on frontal threats. He never looks at the side embankments until he hears June 1943. Direct order from Speer. Immediate production of 50,000 units of what is now officially designated Riegel Mine 43. Riegel means bar or latch in German. The final design is ingeniously simple. A stamped steel rectangular body, 33 centimeters long, 9 centimeters wide, 7 centimeters high. Weight, 4.3 kilograms. Explosive charge, 1.7 kilograms of Amitol molded into a lens shape to direct the blast force. ZZ-42 pressure fuse detonates with only 15 kilograms of lateral force. Exactly the weight applied by a moving tank track. The shape is crucial. While teller mines were circular and buried, the Riegel is a narrow bar designed to be installed vertically or at an angle, camouflaged in embankment vegetation. Seen from above, it's invisible. Seen from the side, it looks like a piece of wood or debris. But when a 40-ton Sherman track passes, it applies enough lateral force to compress the fuse. Boom! The explosion doesn't need to penetrate the tank's armor. It simply destroys the track. A Sherman track has 79 steel links connected by pins. The Riegel mine, detonating against the outer side of the track, instantly snaps 12 to 15 links, tears out the connection pins, and twists the idler wheel. The tank is immobilized. Worse than destroyed, abandoned. An immobilized Sherman blocked narrow roads, created obstacles, and forced units to divert into actual minefields. October 1943. Field tests in Italy. The 16th Panzer Grenadier Division installs 230 Riegel mines along 4 kilometers of mountain road near Cassino. Results: 11 Sherman tanks immobilized in 3 days. Effectiveness rate: 4.8%. Each mine destroyed tracks in 48% of contacts. Detection rate by Allied engineering teams: less than 2%. The Riegel were almost invisible. American commanders began reporting ghost mines. Tanks immobilized with no visible explosion craters. No debris, only twisted tracks and confused men. Guderian orders massive production. February 1944. 180,000 Regal mines are dispatched to occupied France. Destination, Normandy. Erwin Rommel, commanding Army Group B in France, immediately seized the potential. The Normandy bocages, those ancient agricultural roads flanked by earth embankments covered with centuries of dense vegetation, are natural traps. Roads 3 to 4 meters wide, embankments 2 to 3 meters high, dense as walls. Tanks forced to move in single file. Impossibility of maneuver. Visibility limited to 20 to 30 meters. If Rommel could mine the invisible embankments of every intersection, every sharp curve, every bottleneck, he would transform all of Normandy into an armored death zone. March to May 1944. 17,000 Regal mines are secretly installed along the Normandy bocages. German engineers camouflaged them brilliantly, installed vertically in embankments, covered with transplanted live grass, painted dark green, positioned at points where tanks would be forced to pass close by, inner curves of corners, bottlenecks of destroyed bridges, village entrances. Impossible to see, impossible to detect. June 6, 1944. D-Day. At 6:30 a.m., the first wave of Shermans crosses the beaches. German resistance is fierce but disorganized. At 11 a.m., elements of the 2nd Armored Division begin moving inland. At 2:23 p.m., the 1st Sherman, commanded by Lieutenant Howard Mills, turns a corner near Vierville-sur-Mer. Boom. Right track explodes. Mills initially thinks it's a Panzerfaust, but there's no crater, no visible enemy, only the destroyed track, twisted like crumpled metal. The tank blocks the road. Vehicles pile up behind. Engineers arrive, examine the site, find nothing. New German mine. Unknown type. This phrase will be repeated 72 more times in the next 72 hours. June 7th, 9:15 a.m. 5 Shermans from Company A, 741st Tank Battalion, move in column through the bocages near La Cam. The road makes a sharp left turn. The lead tank turns. Boom. Left track explodes. The second tank tries to bypass. Boom. Right track. The remaining 3 tanks stop abruptly. Engineers advance to investigate. They find dark green metal fragments among the embankment vegetation. Rectangular shape. Unknown fuse. Report to command. New German anti-tank mine. High effectiveness. Exceptional camouflage. Unknown countermeasures. June 8th, 4:30 p.m. Briefing at the 2nd Armored Division HQ. General Edward Brooks is furious. In 48 hours, we've lost 23 Sherman tanks to these mines. 23. Without a single German shot. Can anyone explain to me what the hell is going on? Silence. No one has answers. Combat engineers report. The mines are installed laterally, sir. Not buried. Camouflaged in the embankment vegetation. Almost impossible to detect until the tracks make contact. Then disarm them. Sir, to disarm them, we would need to inspect every meter of every embankment on every road. That's thousands of kilometers. It would take months. Brooks slams his hand on the table. Then find another solution. I'm losing tanks faster than I can resupply them. The solution came not from high command, not from engineers, but from a tank maintenance sergeant who was fed up with fixing tracks. Sergeant Curtis Cullen, 102nd Cavalry Battalion. Cullen noticed something no one else did. The Regal mines were effective because the Shermans were forced to pass close to the embankments. The roads were too narrow, the embankments too high. But what if the Shermans didn't need to follow the roads? What if they could cross directly through the embankments? Absurd idea. Normandy embankments were 2 to 3 meters high, with centuries of intertwined roots and earth compacted as hard as concrete. No tank could cross them. Or could it? Cullen went to the salvage yard and found wreckage of German beach obstacles, sturdy steel structures designed to tear through boat hulls. He welded 4 steel sections in the shape of tusks to the front of a damaged Sherman. Then he convinced his commander to let him test it. June 12, 1944. Improvisational testing ground near Corentin. Cullen's modified Sherman faces a typical embankment. Engine at max, tracks roaring. The steel tusks dig into the compacted earth. For a moment, nothing happens. The tank just pushes against the green wall. Then, with a terrible sound of snapping roots, the Sherman climbs. It breaks through. It emerges on the other side. It works. Cullen welded a solution to the problem that was killing dozens of crews. Bradley orders immediate production. Every Sherman in Normandy will receive rhino tusks, officially called Cullen hedgerow cutters. But there's a problem. Installing the tusks takes 3 to 4 days per tank. During those days, tanks still need to operate. They still need to use the roads. They're still vulnerable. June 14th, 11:20 a.m. 3 Shermans move through Bocage near St. Lo. Everyone awaits tusk installation. Everyone is still vulnerable. The road makes an S-curve. The first tank turns. Boom. The second tank tries to reverse. Boom. The third tank is immobilized by the blockage. The ambush is perfect. 3 tanks lost in 40 seconds. All crews evacuate safely, but the Shermans are abandoned, blocking the road for 18 hours until towing equipment can arrive.